Welcome back to the deep dive. We've had a lot of requests for this one, and today we're tackling it. We are diving deep into the files on the Zodiac Killer. It's, well, arguably the most famous unsolved murder case in American history.
It really is, and it's a case file that's just um, unique
Yeah.
because the killer wasn't just violent. He used communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ciphers, symbols. He basically weaponized information to control the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. He held the San Francisco Bay Area in this, grip of fear for a while there.
A really terrifying, concentrated period.
Okay, so our mission today, let's try to boil this down. We want to get to the core facts, the confirmed stuff, the timeline of the violence, definitely, and then those communications, the letters, the codes that really make this case stand out.
And the mysteries that are still left, of course.
Yeah,
Plus the links or possible links to other cases.
exactly. We want you, the listener, to come away with a solid grasp of what the source material actually tells us about this whole thing.
So let's just lay out the absolute basics first, get everyone on the same page. We're talking about an unidentified serial killer mainly active between December 1968 and October 1969.
And the confirmed attacks, they span a few places in Northern California. Benicia, Vallejo, parts of Napa County, and then right into San Francisco itself.
Yeah, 4 distinct regions. And the confirmed targets were 3 young couples and then that lone cab driver in SF.
The official count, the one police stand by, is 5 kill and 2 survivors. That's confirmed.
And the name, the Zodiac, that wasn't the media, that was him. He came up with it himself. Signed his messages, those taunting letters with that crosshair symbol, the gun sight.
Right, the symbol became infamous. And his motive, the one he actually wrote down in those decoded messages, it's just chilling.
It really is.
Yeah.
He said he was collecting victims as slaves for the afterlife.
Slaves for the afterlife. I mean, it's not robbery, it's not revenge. It's this deeply twisted, almost like mythological reason. He wanted some kind of immortal status, it seems.
Exactly. Calculated, bizarre, and absolutely central to understanding or trying to understand his psychology.
Okay, let's get straight into the timeline then. The confirmed attacks. Because the speed and the way they escalated is pretty terrifying. It all kicks off in December 68, Lake Herman Road.
December 20th, 1968. The victims were just high school kids. Betty Lou Jensen, she was 16, and David Arthur Faraday, 17. They were parked out on a gravel road, basically a local lover's lane, kind of on the edge of Vallejo and Benicia.
And the attack itself was just brutal and fast. Around 11 p.m., another car pulls up alongside theirs. The attacker gets out, walks around, and just starts shooting.
Yeah, clinical is a good word. They tried to get out, scramble through the passenger door. Faraday was shot in the head right then with a .22 pistol.
And Jensen, she ran, he chased her, shot her 6 times in the back, 5 hits.
It's just horrific.
And the police at the time, they figured it was random, just killing for the sake of killing, no obvious motive, no connection between the victims that they could find.
Right. And because it seemed random, and the weapon was a pretty common .22 caliber, the investigation hit a wall almost immediately. Despite a lot of effort, no viable suspects turned up. The trail just went cold.
Until 7 months later. Then things start up again, and this is where it really shifts. Blue Rock Springs, July 4th, or technically the early morning of July 5th, 1969.
This is a critical moment. Another lover's lane, this time a parking lot in Vallejo, only about 2 miles from that first attack site.
Victims this time. Darlene Elizabeth Farron, 22, she was killed. And Michael Renaud Magot, 19, he survived, miraculously.
And here you see the method change, the MO. The killer pulls up, but this time he shines a really bright flashlight right into their car as he walks up.
Which made them think he was a cop, right? Checking on them, so they roll down the window.
Exactly. And instead of talking, he just opens fire, uses a 9mm pistol this time.
Mm.
That whole flashlight thing, pretending to be authority, it gave him a huge psychological edge right off the bat.
Magot was badly wounded but survived. Farron died at the hospital. But the really big development here wasn't just the shooting, it was the phone call.
Yeah, less than an hour later, the killer calls the Vallejo Police Department. He uses a payphone just like 2 blocks from the police station itself.
Super brazen.
Totally. And he reports the murders, explicitly says he did it, and crucially, he connects it back. He says he's responsible for those kids last year, meaning Lake Herman Road. He even names the weapon, the 9mm Luger.
That 7-month gap, people call it a cooling off period, but him calling immediately, taking credit before the police had even linked the 2 scenes, it shows this desperate need for recognition, doesn't it?
It really does. He had to establish himself as this serial threat before anyone else did.
And this feeds into all that speculation about Darlene Farron, the victim who died. Did she know him? Mago, the survivor, gave some confusing accounts over time.
Right. He mentioned a name, Richard, at one point, apparently, but then kind of walked it back. It fueled theories, you know? Why would she tell Mago earlier that evening not to worry about a strange car that seemed to be following them, if it was totally random?
And some sources, especially Gray Smith's early research, they dug into this. Friends suggested Farron might have known someone suspicious. There was even this old photo from '66 of Farron with some guy who looked weirdly like the later Zodiac composite sketch.
Nothing proven, of course. But the fact that she lived kind of near Betty Lou Jensen from the first attack, plus Mago's accounts, it just keeps that, did she know him, question alive.
Okay, so less than 3 months pass. And then comes Lake Berryessa, September 27th, 1969. This is where the performance aspect really kicks in.
Oh, absolutely. This was pure theater, planned for maximum impact. The victims were college students, Cecilia Ann Shepard, 22, and Brian Calvin Hartnell, 20, just having a picnic out on this little peninsula, basically.
And the killer approaches them wearing a costume.
A full-on terrifying costume, a black executioner-style hood, clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes, and this bib thing on his chest with that big white crosshair symbol.
It's such a huge leap from a quick shooting to this. It signals he's not just a killer anymore. He's actively crafting this persona. He's a performer.
Right. And initially, he tells them this story, right? He's an escaped convict, needs their car, money, heading to Mexico.
But it's just a ploy. He has rope with him, pre-cut lengths of plastic clothesline, and he makes Shepard tie up Hartnell.
And let's pause on that detail, the pre-cut rope. This is a huge potential link. Remember the suspected 1963 Santa Barbara murders we might talk about later. Police there found evidence the attacker tried to bind that couple with pre-cut rope too.
6 years apart, but the same specific preparation. Suggests a consistent ritual, maybe?
It really points that way.
Yeah.
So after Shepard ties Hartnell, the Zodiac checks the knots, tightens them himself. That need for control again.
Then he just drops the whole robbery story, pulls out this huge knife, and attacks them. Viciously. Hartnell got stabbed 6 times, survived, again, miraculously. Shepard was stabbed 10 times. She died 2 days later in the hospital.
And immediately after, the scorekeeping starts. He hikes about 500 yards back to Hartnell's car, takes out a pen, draws the crosshair symbol right on the car door.
And lists the attacks. Explicitly. Vallejo, 12-20-68, 7-4-69, Sep 27-69, 6.30, by knife. He's writing his own history, building the legend in real time.
And just like after Blue Rock Springs, the phone call. About an hour later, 7:40 p.m., he drives 27 miles to downtown Napa, finds another payphone, calls the Napa County Sheriff's Office.
And confesses again. Says, I want to report a murder. No, a double murder.
But this time, he stays on the line, or maybe just puts the phone down without hanging up properly, long enough for the dispatcher to hear him breathing and for detectives to get there quickly.
And they lift a print from the phone.
A wet palm print right off the receiver. Huge potential break. But incredibly frustratingly, that print has never, ever been matched to any suspect.
Right.
Not then, not now.
Wow. And the description they got from Hartnell and some women who saw a guy lurking nearby earlier.
Yeah, about 6 feet tall, maybe 200 pounds, kind of stocky build, consistent with other sightings later.
Okay, that brings us to the fourth and the last confirmed Zodiac murder. Presidio Heights, San Francisco. October 11th, 1969. This changes everything again.
Big time. Moving into a dense upscale neighborhood in the city itself. And the victim wasn't part of a couple. It was a lone cab driver, Paul Lee Stein, just 29 years old.
Stan picks up a fare downtown, drives him to the corner of Washington and Cherry in Presidio Heights, and there the passenger shoots him in the head, takes his wallet, his car keys.
Those keys become important later, a kind of gruesome trophy.
Now this scene, this should have been it. This should have been where they caught him. There were witnesses.
Absolutely. 3 teenagers right across the street. They saw the whole thing. Saw the killer going through Stain's pockets, wiping down the inside of the cab with a cloth. They got a good look at his face under the streetlights.
Police even recovered 2 partial fingerprints from the cab later.
But then, the mistake.
Yeah.
The dispatcher. It's just agonizing.
When the call went out to responding officers, the dispatcher mistakenly broadcast that the suspect was black.
Based on the initial, maybe panicked description from the kids, perhaps, but it was wrong. The suspect was white.
So minutes later, 2 SFPD officers, Donald Fook and Eric Zolms, they're cruising the area. They see a white man walking calmly away from the scene, dark clothes, matching the actual description the teenagers gave.
They pull up, ask him, did you see anything? The guy points down the street, says he saw a man with a gun running that way.
And the officers, They just drive off looking for the non-existent black suspect. They let the white man who the Zodiac himself later bragged was him just walk away.
Unbelievable. A single word, a communication error. And probably the best chance they ever had to catch him literally slipped through their fingers.
And he knew it. 2 days later, he proves it. Mails a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle. Inside, a piece of Paul Stein's shirt, stained with blood.
The ultimate proof. And the letter included this boast about watching the police searching for him from the shadows, rubbing their noses in it, confirming his insane luck, or maybe his cunning in exploiting the confusion.
This murder really brings the case into the heart of SFGC and brings in the detectives most associated with it, Bill Armstrong and especially Dave Toschi.
Right. Toschi lived and breathed this case for 7 years, apparently filled 8 entire filing cabinets with notes, leads, theories.
Yeah, Toschi had this profile in his head, right? He thought Zodiac was smart, educated, probably lived locally, but maybe held down some kind of ordinary menial job that let him blend in and gave him time to plan.
But the pressure,
Yeah.
it clearly got to him. The human cost of chasing a ghost like this.
You're talking me the letters.
Yeah, the scandal in 1976. It came out that Toschi himself had been writing anonymous letters to a Chronicle columnist, basically praising his own work on the Zodiac case.
Oh, wow. That's desperate.
It was seen as this huge breach of conduct, damaged the investigation's credibility, got him taken off the case, demoted. It just shows the immense psychological toll this killer inflicted, not just on the public, but on the people trying to catch him.
Okay, so the violence is horrific, but the reason this case lodges itself in the public mind even more than the body count is the communication, the Zodiac persona.
Exactly. This is where he transforms from just a killer into this national boogeyman, this legend. It starts July 31st, 1969. Letters arrive at 3 big Bay Area newspapers.
Almost identical letters, right, claiming credit for both the 68 Lake Herman Road attack and the recent Blue Rock Springs attack.
Right. And filled with spelling mistakes, which, could be genuine or it could be deliberate misdirection. Hard to say.
And these letters came with a demand. They included parts of a cipher, the Z408 cipher, and he demanded the papers print these codes on their front page.
Or else. He threatened a killing spree, said he'd kill 12 people over the weekend if they didn't publish. Pure psychological warfare from the get-go, holding the public ransom with a puzzle.
And then, just days later, August 4th, the letter arrives at the Examiner. And that's the first time he uses the name.
Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. That's the moment. And he proves it's him by casually dropping details about the crimes that only the killer could know, stuff police hadn't released, like how he taped a flashlight to his gun at Lake Herman Road.
So he establishes the name, proves it's him, and then there's the cipher, Z408. He claimed, and this cipher is my identity sick.
The big reveal.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't quite the masterstroke you might have thought. The FBI, the CIA, all the official cryptographers were stumped, apparently.
But it got solved really quickly, right, by amateurs.
Yeah. A couple in Salinas, Donald and Biddy Harden. Just regular people interested in codes. They cracked it in a weekend. Been embarrassing for the pros, I imagine.
Definitely. And what did it say? No name, obviously.
No name. But it laid out his whole twisted worldview. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game. Man is the most dangerous animal of all.
Chilling. And it confirmed the motive, too, right? The afterlife slaves.
Explicitly. Slaves when I am reborn in paradise.
So the police, specifically Vallejo PD, they actually asked for a psych profile based on this, didn't they?
They did, and it was pretty insightful. The profile describes someone feeling omnipotent, probably brooding and isolated, and the psychiatrist noted that praising murder over sex might suggest feelings of inadequacy, like the boasting was covering something up.
Interesting. So the letters start boastful, then they get threatening, really threatening. After the Stein murder in SF, he starts talking about attacking kids.
Yeah, the school bus threat, that terrified people. He threatened to shoot out a school bus tire and then, quote, kill children as they exited. He even included a bomb diagram in a letter dated November 9th. Imagine being a parent in the Bay Area then.
Unimaginable. Then, a weird shift. December 20th, 1969, exactly 1 year after the first murders, he writes to Melvin Belli, the famous lawyer.
And the tone is totally different. Panicked, almost pleading. Please help me, I am drowning. I cannot remain in control for much longer. He even includes another piece of Stein's bloody shirt, like proof he's serious, but also maybe a cry for help.
Or is it, that's the question, right? Is this genuine anguish, a crack in the facade, or is it just another manipulation, trying to make people think he's a victim of his own urges, maybe get some sympathy, keep the media hooked?
Impossible to know for sure. But the tone definitely snapped back pretty quick. By April 1970, he's back to bragging.
Right, denies bombing a police station, says there's more glory to killing a cop than a SID, meaning a child, includes another bomb diagram, and starts the scorekeeping.
The infamous scorecard. The Zodiac equals 10, SFPD equals 0. It wasn't just about killing anymore. It was about publicly humiliating the police, winning the game.
He even got weirdly obsessed with his own fame, didn't he? Complaining that people weren't wearing Zodiac buttons.
Yeah, mid-1970, he writes complaining that nobody's wearing some nice Zodiac buttons, like he's trying to build a brand, sell merch. It's bizarre.
But the confirmed letters, they don't just stop suddenly. They kind of fade out.
Sort of. There were letters in 71 claiming he's up to 17 victims. Then a big gap, 3 years of silence. And then one last really strange one pops up. The Exorcist letter. Postmarked January 29th, 1974.
The Exorcist letter, what did that say?
It was odd. He praised the movie The Exorcist, which had just come out, called it the best satirical comedy sick you'd ever seen. Just this weird, flippant pop culture comment after years of nothing.
And the final score.
That was the kicker. He ends it with a new tally. Me equals 37, SFPD equals 0.
37 victims! That's a huge jump.
Massive. And totally unsubstantiated. But it suggests that even if the actual killing had maybe stopped, the fantasy, the need for that grandiosity was still going strong inside his head.
Some psychiatrists have looked at this pattern, right? The silence, the weird final letter.
Yeah, people like David Van Noyes used the letters to speculate. Maybe the killer had some kind of severe mental illness, maybe even multiple personalities, and the violent phase just lessened over time. It's one theory for why the case just went cold after 74.
Okay, we have to talk about the codes, the ciphers, because that's what really hooked people intellectually. It wasn't just violence, it was a puzzle.
Absolutely. So Z408, the first one, got solved quickly by the Hardens, revealed the motive, not the name. But the second big one, Z340, that was a whole different beast.
It arrived with a letter in November 1969, and it stayed unsolved for how long?
51 years. 51. Until December 2020.
Wow, why was it so hard?
It was incredibly complex. Apparently used some kind of transposition or unusual pattern that standard methods couldn't crack. One expert ranked it second only to the Voynich manuscript in difficulty. You know, that weird medieval book nobody can read?
That's saying something. So how did it finally get cracked?
Technology and teamwork, basically. An international group of private citizens, David Orenchak from the U.S., Sam Blake from Australia, Jarl van Eyck from Belgium, they used specialized code-breaking software, huge amounts of computer power that just didn't exist back in '69.
And the message, after all that time, more clues to his identity.
Frustratingly, no. It basically just doubled down on the afterlife stuff. He bragged he wasn't afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise, all the sewer. Said he already had enough slaves waiting for him, unlike everyone else who reaches paradise with nothing.
So still no name, just more the same creepy motive.
Pretty much. The FBI confirmed the solution was valid, but noted it offered no real investigative leads.
But there are still unsolved ones, right? The really short ones.
Two main ones that still drive the zodiologists, the amateur sleuths. Crazy. First is Z13, just 13 characters. It came in an April 1970 letter right after the words, "My name is..."
So obviously everyone hopes that's his name.
Right, but the FBI analysis suggests the grammar and spelling in those 13 symbols don't quite match the Zodiac's usual patterns. So maybe it's his name, or maybe it's another joke.
What kind of solutions have people proposed?
Oh, all sorts. Some think it spells out Alfred E. Newman, the Mad Magazine guy. Others think it's an insult aimed at the president of some cryptogram club at the time. Nobody knows for sure.
And the other one, Z32, that came with a map.
Yeah, Z32. Came with a letter in June 1970. And Zodiac claimed this cipher, combined with a map, would show where he'd buried a bomb.
Okay, what was the map?
It was just a standard Phillips 66 road map of the Bay Area. But he'd drawn his crosshair symbol right on Mount Diablo, the big peak east of the bay. And he labeled the points 0, 3, 6, 9, like a clock face, starting at the top. Said 0 was set to MAG, N, magnetic north.
And he gave clues about radians.
Yeah, later letters mentioned radians and number of inches along the radians, which sounds like technical jargon, maybe meant to confuse.
But someone figured out a possible meaning.
A researcher named Gareth Penn, back in 1981, he had this really interesting idea. What if Mount Diablo was meant to be like the center point of a geometric grid? And those numbers, 0, 3, 6, 9, related to directions or angles from that peak.
Okay, so did it line up with anything?
Amazingly, yes. Penn found that if you used Mount Diablo as the center and drew lines, or radians, radiating outwards based on the killer's clues, 3 of the confirmed attack sites, Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs, and the Snine murder scene in SF, all fell almost perfectly along one single radian extending out from the mountain.
Whoa. That can't be coincidence, can it?
It seems incredibly unlikely. Even though the Z32 cipher itself is still unsolved and no bomb was ever found, that geographic alignment is stunning. It suggests he wasn't just picking spots randomly. He was operating within this complex, almost mathematical framework he'd designed, a framework he probably thought was way smarter than the police could figure out.
Okay, the 5 confirmed victims are terrible enough. But Zodiac himself claimed 37 in that last letter, which forces us to look wider, doesn't it, at the suspected victims?
Absolutely. Investigators have long suspected links to other cold cases that just fit. The methods, the weapons, the locations. Let's go way back first, to 1963. The murders of Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards in Santa Barbara County.
They were teenagers too, right? High school sweethearts.
Yeah, Domingos was 18, Edwards was 17. Found shot to death on a beach near Gaviota State Park in June '63. But the key thing here, the detail that screams Zodiac, is the binding attempt.
The pre-cut rope again?
Exactly. Police found evidence the killer had tried to tie them up using pre-cut lengths of rope, just like the pre-cut plastic clothesline used at Lake Berryessa 6 years later.
And the weapon?
Both shot multiple times, back and chest, with a .22 caliber weapon, same caliber as Lake Herman Road.
So the link seems really strong. Did police think so at the time?
By 1972, yeah. The Santa Barbara sheriff actually went on record saying there was a high degree of probability that Zodiac was responsible for the Domingos-Edwards murders.
Yeah.
The signature was just too similar.
Okay, moving forward. 1966, Riverside, California, the murder of Cherry Joe Bates.
Right. A college student, 18 years old, brutally beaten and stabbed to death near the Riverside City College library on October 30th, 1966.
And the evidence connecting this to Zodiac is pretty compelling, isn't it? There were letters.
Yes. About a month after the murder, anonymous typewritten letters titled The Confession were sent to the police and the local paper. They contained details only the killer could know. That's clue number 1.
What else?
Clue number 2. A really morbid poem was found scratched into the surface of a desk in the college library, discovered months later. It started, "Sick of living and willing to die."
Okay.
And here's the third and maybe biggest clue. Sherwood Morrill, California's top handwriting and document examiner at the time, looked at that poem and compared it to confirmed Zodiac writing. His conclusion: it was Zodiac's handwriting.
Wow, an expert match.
Plus, Zodiac himself basically claimed it later. In a 1971 letter, he taunted the police about his Riverside activity, saying they'd only found the easy ones, implying there was more they'd missed there. He seemed to want the credit for Bates.
Okay, so strong links to 63 and 66.
Yeah.
Then there's the survivor, Kathleen Johns, in 1970, after the confirmed killings seemed to stop.
Right, March 1970. This is maybe the closest we get to a non-victim witness identifying him. Johns was driving near Modesto. She was pregnant, had her baby daughter with her.
And someone flagged her down.
Yeah, a guy honked, pulled alongside, told her rear wheel was wobbling. He offered to tighten the lug nuts. She pulled over, he fiddled with it, then drove off.
And the wheel fell off.
Oh, immediately. As soon as she pulled back onto the highway, he deliberately loosened them. Then he reappeared, offered her a ride to a gas station.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She gets in the car with her baby, and he just drives. For maybe 2 hours, erratically, past gas stations, saying terrifying things like, "You know I'm going to kill you," threatening her baby too.
How did she get away?
She waited for a moment. When he slowed or stopped, grabbed her baby, jumped out of the car, and hid in a dark field until he drove off. Eventually got a ride to a police station in Patterson.
And that's where she saw the poster.
Exactly. She sees the wanted poster for the guy who killed Paul Stein, the SF cab driver, and she reportedly just blurts out, "Oh my God, that's him."
And did Zodiac ever mention this?
He did. In a later letter, he referenced the incident, kind of confirming her story, and said Johns was now on his little list of people he intended to kill.
Chilling. Okay, one more potential victim, this one much later, and a disappearance. Donna Lass, 1970.
September 1970, so almost a year after the Stein murder. Lass was 25, working as a nurse at the Sahara Tahoe Hotel and Casino in State Line, Nevada, right on the California border. She just vanished after her shift.
And there were weird phone calls.
Yeah, her boss and her landlord got calls from a man claiming Donna had left town due to a family emergency. Classic misdirection, maybe to delay anyone reporting her missing.
What connects her to Zodiac?
It's tentative, but it's a postcard. Sent later to Paul Avery, the Chronicle reporter covering Zodiac. It was a postcard from Lake Tahoe, with pasted words forming a message like, "Peek through the pines, sought victim 12," and it had the crosshair symbol on it.
Victim 12, implying she was one of his.
That was the implication. For decades, she was just a missing person. But then, a huge development just recently, in 2023.
They found her.
They identified remains. A skull that had been found way back in 1986 up in the mountains near Emigrant Gap, California, was finally identified using DNA as belonging to Donna Lass.
Wow, so she was murdered.
Yes, confirmed murdered.
And
it deepens the mystery. Did Zodiac's activities extend that far? Into the Sierra Nevada near Tahoe? That postcard seems like a pretty big clue.
the whole investigation, it's a story of dedication, but also frustration and some real missteps.
Absolutely. We talk about Detective Tashi, his 7 years on the case, those 8 filing cabinets, but also the immense pressure that led to that scandal with the anonymous letters in '76.
Right, writing letters praising himself to the press. That must have been a huge blow to the investigation's credibility. Getting removed from the case, demoted.
It really was. Shows the psychological damage this case inflicted. And for anyone wondering, the case isn't technically closed. SFPD called it inactive for a bit in 2004, but they reopened it before 2007.
Still open?
Still officially open with the California Department of Justice, the FBI, and in Vallejo, Napa, and Solano counties. They still look at leads, apparently.
Okay, the elephant in the room. The suspect. There's really only one name that consistently comes up, the one police actually named publicly. Arthur Lee Allen.
Right. Allen was a former school teacher, had a conviction for child molestation, died in 1992, and he became the focus, the prime suspect for many, including authorities for a time.
A lot of that came from Robert Graysmith's work, right? The cartoonist at the Chronicle who got obsessed.
Yeah, Graysmith's books, starting with Zodiac in '86, were hugely influential. They laid out a really compelling circumstantial case against Allen. His physical resemblance to descriptions, owning a Zodiac brand watch, being potentially near some of the crime scenes around the right times, some suspicious statements he apparently made.
It sounds convincing when you lay it out like that.
It does. And Graysmith's narrative really cemented Allen in the public consciousness as the guy.
But, and this is the massive but that keeps the case unsolved, the physical evidence didn't match up, did it? Even Tashi admitted that.
That's the core contradiction. Detective Tashi himself, despite maybe leaning towards Allen circumstantially, stated later that the actual forensic evidence, fingerprints, handwriting, all came back negative for Allen.
So the partial prints from Stein's cab, not Allen's.
Nope, not a match. And crucially, multiple handwriting experts looked at confirmed samples of Allen's writing and compared them to the Zodiac letters, the consensus. He did not write the Zodiac letters.
That's huge. Fingerprints and handwriting don't match. So you have this powerful narrative, strong circumstantial links, but the hard evidence clears them.
Exactly. And that disconnect is why the mystery persists. The public story, largely driven by Graysmith, points one way. The official forensic findings point another.
It really captures the essence of the case's legacy, doesn't it? As Michael Taylor put it, it was the catch me if you can taunting, the mind puzzlers, and the fact he just vanished that created the legend, more than the actual body count.
He became famous for the game, for the puzzles, not just for the murders.
And it created this whole subculture, right? The zodiologists?
Oh, yeah. Amateur detectives, online forums, people still dedicating huge amounts of time trying to crack those mass ciphers, digging through old files, proposing new suspects. It's a phenomenon.
And the pop culture impact is undeniable.
Massive. Dozens of books, starting with Graysmith, then the movies.
Yeah.
Scorpio and Dirty Harry was directly inspired by Zodiac. John Doe and Seven, the meticulous score-keeping killer. Echoes of Zodiac there, too.
And then David Fincher's movie, Zodiac, in 2007.
Right, which was incredibly well-researched and presented the Graysmith-Avery investigation perspective very compellingly. It's a great film, but it definitely reignited public interest and put the focus squarely back on Arthur Lee Allen, maybe overshadowing the lack of forensic matches for a new generation.
So in the end, Zodiac got what he wanted, didn't he? He engineered his own immortality, not through the killings themselves, but through the persona, the game, the frustration he caused.
He absolutely did. He turned murder into this public spectacle, this performance art almost, designed specifically to ensure his name, his symbol, would never be forgotten.
So we've gone through the confirmed timeline, the chilling communications, the suspects, the enduring mysteries. If there's one big takeaway here, it really is how Zodiac used communication itself as a weapon.
Absolutely. He wasn't just acting on the world. He was forcing the media, the police, even the public with those ciphers, to react to him, to play his game.
Yeah.
He craved that interaction, that validation.
Okay, let's leave folks with one last thought, something to chew on based on everything we've just discussed from the sources. He claimed 37 victims in that final letter. We can only confirm 5.
Right. A huge discrepancy.
But we know police back in '72 thought there was a high degree of probability linking him to those 1963 Santa Barbara murders, specifically because of that pre-cut rope MO.
A very specific, rare detail shared across years.
And we know the evidence for the 1966 Cherry Joe Bates murder in Riverside, the confession letter details. The expert handwriting match on that desk poem, his own later taunts about Riverside activity, is incredibly strong.
Very hard to dismiss.
So if he was potentially active as early as 1963, 6 years before Lake Herman Road, and maybe killed Bates in '66, and his methods were already forming, how many other unsolved cases might be out there? How much bigger could his real story be, hidden in cold case files across California, maybe even further, just because those victims weren't announced with a letter and a crosshair symbol?
That's the truly unsettling question, isn't it? His claim of 37. Maybe it wasn't just pure fantasy. Maybe the public spectacle was only part of the story.
A chilling thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this pretty intense deep dive into the Zodiac file.